The Utah Jazz are losers of back-to-back games for the first time this season and for the first time under Will Hardy. They lost to Washington ugly and then got embeated in Philly last night. How bad are things for the Utah Jazz, Jake?
Yeah, I don't think they're that bad. I think that, obviously, the Washington loss was not great. Didn't really like how you played in that game. But I thought Philly last night was more just, you were not disciplined in the way you ran your offense. They early in the game, were moving the ball and getting wide open looks and missing some of those looks. But overall, like, the offense looked good. And then you went away from that and you started just kind of, trying to drive and kick and not really, swinging the ball and making the defense move left to right. And so you get into this position where you're not getting those great looks. You're not getting what you need to win a ball game. So to me, I don't think there's any need to panic. I don't think there's any need to worry or stress. Like, I think this is part of, a long season. Because, again, it's 82 games. Like, you're going to have, swings where you lose 8 out of 10. Now, I'm not saying that's what losing 2 in a row is going to lead to right now, but it's going to happen. And I do think last night was a winnable game. But last night is also the reason you're not a 60-win team right now. You're a mid-40s win team. Like, that's where you're at as an organization. I thought, some of the spotlights from last night, I thought overall defensively, you did the best you could on Joel Embiid. I thought, last night Embiid's performance, obviously special. Obviously they, went to him and he carried them. And I think that, you clearly lack the defender you need to even slow down Joel Embiid. You just don't even have anybody that could really compete with him. And that was on full display last night. And that's okay. But I think when, later down the line, when we're getting comments and questions about like, hey, what does this team need? Well, that's definitely a glaring need right now, a skilled big. And I love what Walker Kessler is doing. I love his game. I love where he's at in his development, but he's just not ready to play Joel Embiid one-on-one and go back and forth with him. So, to me, that was a big need. I also think that this team, on the road is going to have to learn how to win consistently. Like, I feel like that first road trip you did well. Second road trip here, obviously you haven't done as well. And you would expect that with a young team. You would expect that with a younger head coach where they have to figure out how to consistently move the ball. They don't have the luxury of just giving it to Joel Embiid at the elbow and say, hey, go and get us 60. They don't have that luxury. There's nobody on this team that's doing that. So overall, I think they're in a great place as a team. I think obviously they have things to work on, but I'm definitely not hitting the panic button here on Monday.
I don't think it's a panic button thing. I mean, the Joel Embiid situation, and I know a lot of Jazz fans think that I'm crazy for saying this. I said it last night, and everybody was like, what are you talking about? The Utah Jazz did not lose because of Joel Embiid. That's not what happened. The Utah Jazz last night lost because they stopped playing the game that had got them to 10 wins first in the NBA. They stopped moving the ball. They stopped shooting threes. Like, one of the things you can always look at with the Jazz is how many threes are they taking? If you look game to game to game, last night, they just didn't shoot enough threes to even put themselves in a position to win that game. And yet, they were in position to win the game. They didn't move the ball enough. Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton were very selfish in the fourth quarter, in my opinion, and they passed up the extra pass that could have and would have led to an open three. That's why they lost the game last night. And with all due respect to Joe, the guy was unbelievable. He's one of the best players in the NBA. I think everybody knows that. Joel Embiid going off for 17,000 points last night wasn't the reason the Utah Jazz lost the game.
With all due respect.
And listen, the Jazz on this trip just didn't play Utah Jazz basketball, or not the basketball that had gotten Will Hardy's Utah Jazz to 10 wins. And I think, Jake, that's the thing that really stands out to me, is this Jazz team just stopped playing the basketball that had gotten them to where they are.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult sometimes mentally to always stay in that mindset as a basketball player where you're thinking about, hey, make the extra pass. Hey, find that wide open guy. Like, I have to imagine that, for let's just use Jordan Clarkson as an example. Like, for Jordan Clarkson, someone of his ability to score and someone of his confidence level, like, I imagine that, based on where you're at in the game, there are going to be times where you were in his heart, he feels like him creating his own shot is the best opportunity. But I think that there is no better opportunity than the wide open 3-point shot in the corner in the NBA. Like the stats show that wide open uncontested corner threes are one of the highest percentage threes you can take. And I understand that Jared Vanderbilt may not be the best 3-point shooter, but if you can get, a lot of other guys, whether it's Beasley or Olynyk or any of those other names that that can knock that shot down, that's a look you want to get. And that's why I totally agree with what you're saying. Like last night was winnable. Last night it's not like you got blown out and, Joel had 59 and they put on some defensive clinic. Like, they were not good defensively last night. You had your opportunities offensively last night. There were many threes that you missed in the corner, absolutely. But I think, the overreaching point here, and really there's two of them in my opinion. Number one, you can't get away from what has brought you success. And I think that, to me, is the most important thing here. Like you understand, okay, here's what we need to do to win a game, and then here's what we actually did last night. And what we actually did just isn't going to give us a great shot to win a game. And then secondly, I think this concept of figuring out, just how far you can take Walker Kessler this season, like just how far he can go as a player. Is he someone that can develop and really blossom into a 25-10 guy? Can he be that? I don't know. I know he's got the athleticism to be that, but does he have the, killer instinct? Does he have the want to? Like, those are things that I am really looking forward to seeing come out of Walker Kessler one way or the other. But overall, I do agree. You didn't lose because of Joel Embiid. You lost because you didn't play your game. That said, you didn't have an answer for Joel Embiid. And by the way, just as a pure basketball fan, that was incredible basketball to watch. I mean, watching Joel do what he does on those kind of nights is one of the most enjoyable things in the league, I feel like.
I still maintain that losing to a big like that is going to be so rare for this team that I don't even think it's that big of a deal. I think it's one of those things where if you, and this is just my opinion, I think if you look at the way they played, and I think if you look at the way that Joel Embiid got his, you're not stopping that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if Rudy was still here. When Joel Embiid is shooting the ball that well, you're not going to do anything about that. And again, not to be redundant, shoot more threes. That's the bottom line for this team. And I feel like sometimes the Jazz try to get away from that, and I don't truly understand it. Why do you run from the fact that you are, what's the word, predicated? Your wins are predicated on you shooting threes. This team has to shoot threes to win. Mm-hmm. That's the way it's built. That's their highest, best offense, in my opinion. And I look at the numbers last night. The Jazz only shot 37 threes. Mm-hmm. The Sixers shot 23. Do you understand that the Sixers shot 17.4% from three last night and won the game?
Yeah.
Like, that should be a giant indicator that you should have, as the Utah Jazz, won this game. Facts. You had the opportunity to win this game. I also look at the free throws. The Jazz shot 56.5% from the free throw stripe, 13 of 23. If you shoot 20 of 23, you win the game.
Yeah.
Like, this is not difficult. By the way, if you're only going to shoot 23 free throws, you're probably not going to win much. Mm-hmm. You got to get fouled. You got to get to the line. I look at the rebounds. You out-rebounded Philadelphia. So how much of an impact really was Joel Embiid? Because Joe last night is no different than what you're getting in this league on a night-in, night-out basis. There's always at least one guy on a team. And the best teams have two or three guys. You look at the Lukas of the world. You look at the Devin Bookers of the world, the Kevin Durants of the world. Look how well Kevin Durant and the Nets are playing right now without Kyrie Irving because they have an alpha male now on the floor, right? So you're always going to have one guy on the opposition that's going to get his. The question is, what do you do with the other guys? Well, the other guys last night were your own team, and you couldn't get going because you didn't move the ball and you didn't shoot threes. So are the Jazz in a tailspin? No, they're not. They need to come home. They need to have a day of rest, and then they need to kick the crap out of the New York Knicks, who frankly are not a great basketball team right now. That, to me, that's how you're going to get out of this.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think the only thing I'd say about last night is Markkanen wasn't exactly scintillating last night. You didn't get that, because you were talking about how like every team has their guy. Lately, Markkanen's been that guy that you can rely on for, that 23 to 26 point performance on any given night, and that, like, it didn't feel like he was playing real impactful basketball last night. And so yeah, maybe they do need rest. I don't know, but what I am here to say is that every NBA team plays tired, and you have to be able to at least consistently play within your system, because if you can rely on the system, usually you'll be in like every game you play.
Yeah.
So they like, at a minimum, Will Hardy just has to get this team to be in the system every night, or even on a smaller scale, like, every quarter. They got to be disciplined to that.
Yeah, just looking through the team stats, the other one that really stood out to me last night was the offensive rebounds. 18 offensive rebounds last night for the Jazz. They get 23 points off of turnovers last night. Like, all of these stats say they should have won, and they didn't win. And I think it is this. I don't know if it's too comfortable. I don't know if it's overconfidence, but you cannot go to the Colin Sexton block from Joel Embiid was really problematic, because you had a wide open opportunity for a three if he just kicks that ball to the corner. Mm-hmm. And he didn't do it. That's the thing. If you're a Jazz fan, that's what should have you worried, because that's a huge problem. If you're not going to share the ball, I think that's a huge problem.
Well, and I think it's clearly that to me is the classic young guy just trying to make a play instead of making the right play. The right play obviously is to kick it to the guy who's wide open in the corner. Colin Sexton's head in that moment was saying, hey, I need to try and go get fouled, and I'm going to go strong to the rack. But that's obviously not the right decision against Joel Embiid. And so that's why I say, like, I think this is also the maturing process for this team too. Like, I like, by their standard, like, last night was not a good performance for the Jazz. Like, obviously we're sitting here going through all the missed opportunities, but I also think, on the other hand, like, that's what should encourage you. Like, hey, they lose this game by 7 points, and you've got all these areas where if you just simply would have kicked it to the corner, or if you'd have taken 5 more threes last night, or if you'd have shot the ball better at the free throw line, like, all these different areas where if you'd have just done a little bit more, you win this game. And that, to me, is what's encouraging. That, to me, is what solidifies the opinion on 45 wins, because they will do those things better against the Knicks at home. You can bank on that.
Yeah. This is what is frustrating about being a Jazz fan, I think. I mean, this is the same thing, by the way, that plagued you last year. This Jazz team will have no better fate, no matter how many games they win, if they're going to continue to just lose their system. You're going to lose games. I mean, you and I don't mean to belabor the Joel Embiid point, because he was clearly amazing last night. He's all they had. Tyrese Maxey a little bit, and I'm a huge fan of Tyrese Maxey. But if you look at the numbers, I mean, they shot, what did they shoot? 26 free throws, I think. I want to say that Joe shot 24 of them. He did. 20 of 24. Daniel House Jr. had 2 free throws. Those were the only 2 guys to shoot free throws for the Sixers. I mean, these numbers tell you Joe had 59 points. Tyrese had 18. The next guy was Tobias Harris with 8. Nobody else was. There was, in fact, only Joe and Tyrese Maxey were in double figures. Nobody else. I mean, it's incredible how one-sided this game was. And it's a game that if you're the Jazz, you're going to look back on it and feel like you should have won by 10.
Yeah.
Because I think you should have won this game by 10. If you make probably 5 better decisions last night, I think you could potentially have won this game by 10 points. Just 5 better decisions. Because I'll absolutely take the starting 5 for the Jazz. Clarkson, Conley, Vando, Markkanen, and Olynyk are better than the Sixers. I think where the Sixers are without James Harden, the Jazz are a better team. That 5 versus their 5 is a better team. The issue is also, I think the Jazz bench, I actually thought Malik Beasley was pretty good last night, and I think he continues to be one of their most important contributors for the Utah Jazz. Malik Beasley's playing very well. He gives you 18 last night. You get 15 from Sexton, but you didn't get much from Talon Horton-Tucker in the way of points, 7. But Talon Horton-Tucker had a couple of really important rebounds. Talon Horton-Tucker had a couple of really important drives. One of them he scored, the other he didn't. But he's actually giving you contributions. Just because you've lost 2 games in a row, the thing I would say to you is don't go driving off the edge of a cliff, my friends, because this team is fine. This Jazz team is fine. You look at the numbers, you look at the contributions, you look at the way they're playing. This team is fine. I do not panic. Do not lose yourself. I don't think this team's falling apart. I don't think this is a disaster by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, talking Utah Jazz basketball on the Monty Show. As always, anytime we talk NBA or the Utah Jazz, our conversations are presented by TryDayTrading.com. They do exactly what their name says. They want you to try day trading. Get to TryDayTrading.com/Monty. And listen, they're so confident in their ability to make you hundreds, at a minimum, hundreds of dollars a day. They're graduates and alumni at Day Trading. The people who go through their program are making hundreds and thousands of dollars a day trading on the market right now. That's what you should be making. So if you're waking up this morning, you're like, damn, it's Monday. It's like 30 degrees outside. I hate my job. The coffee sucks and my boss is a dick. Maybe you should get to TryDayTrading.com/Monty. I went because I'm stuck with idiot over here.
Right,
and, it just motivated me. I'm kidding.
Right.
I would tell you to go to TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Monty, I don't know anything about the stock market.
Please.
How? Why? What do you mean? It doesn't matter what you know, because I know what you don't know, and that is that the TryDayTrading.com system is unbelievable. They're so confident that you're going to start day trading their money, not yours. And when you make money with their money, Day Trading is going to give you 50% of the profit. And if you don't believe me, don't take our word for it. How about our good friend who we've never met, Alema Harrington?
Alema Harrington here. I've been in the broadcast business going on 30 years now. And after that amount of time, you start to be able to pick some winners. I want to share a winner that I'm aware of with you, and that is my guys at Day Trading. They're going to teach you how to trade, and then they're going to let you trade using their money and then split the profits with you. That's a pretty winning deal. If you want to register for a free webinar, all you have to do is go to TryDayTrading.com/Monty. So for more information, it's TryDayTrading.com/Monty. We'll see you there.
Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal. My close personal friend, Alema Harrington, telling you the exact same thing that I'm saying. Get to TryDayTrading.com/Monty because, you know who Alema is. You know he's a big name in this town. If he's telling you, if he believes in the Day system, you've got to get there. TryDayTrading.com. Make the money, live the life that you deserve. Let's get your comments in here as we talk Utah Jazz basketball. Kenai Johnson, you stud. How the heck are you? Hope you had a good weekend. Mike Chase, who was actually the first one in this morning, says, morning, fellas. Hope your trip was fun. Yeah, we went snowboarding in Mammoth. Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I know I say this every year, and I've been snowboarding it's probably my 10th year or something like that I've been snowboarding. But it's odd to me that you don't snowboard for 6 months, right? Like I guess April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, 6.5 months you don't snowboard. Yeah. You get right back on that board and it's like you never left. Like you've been doing it every day. Your brain's amazing. Yes. It's absolutely amazing to me. And by the way, the snow in Mammoth, California, it was thigh deep. It was amazing.
Truly incredible.
How much snow they had. Had a great time at Mammoth. Thank you, Mike, for asking. JP Shanahan, what's up, dude? Last night's loss probably confirms that Jazz has a difficulty when dealing with a big-name star on other teams. And good morning, by the way. I don't know. Would you agree with that? You look at their losses. Yeah. Right? If you look at the Utah Jazz, and you've lost to some teams, like the Wizards. Do the Wizards have a big-name star that beat you? Probably not. Obviously, Porzingis. And as we mentioned, Kyle Kuzma was going to have a big game. You knew that. But it's not like Bradley Beal went off for 100. He didn't even play in the game. Yeah. So I don't know that's what beat you in that game. I go back to the Mavericks loss, and I think we all know why you lost that game. You lost that game because Luka had 33 points.
But look at these losses. The Maverick loss, you lost by 3 points, right? Like you're not losing by 15.
But what's the problem in that game? What's the problem in that game? You went 10 of 30 from 3, right? Oh, that's 33%. That's actually not terrible. I'm telling you, this team's got to shoot 35 to 45 threes to win.
And I think the difference, so last year's team and this year's team both needed to shoot a lot of threes to win ball games, right?
Yes.
The difference, though, between these two and why they need that is very simple. The difference is that this Jazz team needs that because that's the system they play. They have to be in that system and finding those open looks because they don't have Donovan Mitchell. They don't have that superstar guy on the squad. So they got to generate those open looks through more traditional means. Whereas last year's team just needed to take those because that's how the team was built. You had a bunch of snipers, and that was going to be, you need to go through those guys. But this year's team needs to stay true to that system. And that's why I'm saying I look at some of these losses, and most of these losses are 1-2 possession losses,
they're self-inflicted.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're self-inflicted.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that the Jazz should be undefeated. I'm certainly not saying that.
Right.
But you're in every one of these games. Even if I go back to the Denver loss in Denver, that was your second loss.
Yeah.
It's not like you got beat up by, Jokic. I think Jokic had under 12 points in that game. You're getting beat because you lose yourself a little bit. And I still maintain if you can give me 35 to 45 threes, you're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
30's not getting it done.
And by the way, you look at what's coming up. They're playing Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. And it's a difficult trick to turn. I mean, you're talking about, the Knicks. You're better than the Knicks. That's a game that I would suspect that when the number drops later today, the Jazz should be favored in that game.
100%.
Phoenix, we'll see about Phoenix. I think the interesting part about this stretch of games is that when you look at Phoenix on Friday, obviously that's at home with a back-to-back at Portland, and then you go back to the Clippers. So I actually think these two at home, you got to get those two at home. Mm-hmm. You got to get those two at home because you don't want to lose 3 of 4. And I think going to LA, the Clippers, I don't know, am I still overvaluing the Clippers? I mean, you're not playing great basketball. Obviously, we saw what KD did to that team, which I think is interesting, but then they turn around and did you guys see the Brooklyn game last night? I don't need sleep. I went to bed a little earlier, but I'm laying in bed watching the Clipper or the Laker Brooklyn game.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on with the Lakers and Anthony Davis, but he's playing superior basketball without LeBron on the floor because LeBron's hurt. For those of you who don't know, LeBron's not playing for the Lakers right now with this abductor strain.
Yeah.
But I look at the Lakers. They're better without LeBron. And I had an NBA source tell me over the weekend that the Lakers actually are trying to continue conversations with the Nets and that their most what's the right way, in-depth, passionate conversations with the Nets and the Lakers were not about Kyrie Irving. The Lakers were trying to get Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. So all of this talk about Kyrie, it hasn't been, according to my sources, that they've been trying to get Kyrie Irving. The Lakers were actually trying to hit a home run and trade Anthony Davis for Kevin Durant, and they were willing to give up 2 first-round picks to do that.
That's every day.
They would have obviously, I mean, I think AD's making 32, and I think Kevin Durant's making 47 or something like that, so they're going to have to make the money work.
Yeah.
But they were willing to part with Lonnie Walker, which would have been a significant pickup for the Nets with Anthony Davis. Now, obviously, the Nets are not going to trade Kevin Durant at this point, but it goes to show you the Lakers are not just sitting on their hands hoping that they start winning games, frankly. And I think without LeBron, they're starting to understand that Anthony Davis and LeBron James are not good together or not as good together. And I think the Lakers are in this interesting situation where they're still living on this, but we won a championship with these two guys. And I think that's one of the worst places for them to be in that, hey, that's great, you won a championship. It was in a crazy circumstance in the bubble, and those two guys while they are the main reason you won the championship, let's be honest, KCP and Caruso are the reasons that they won that championship in the bubble.
Facts.
So them playing a part, they're clearly, LeBron and AD are clearly better players away from each other. I think it makes all the sense in the world for the Lakers to trade Anthony Davis, and it is not surprising to me at all, Jake, that they were more interested in Kevin Durant than they were in Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like if you just pose the question, who'd you be more interested in? Obviously, 10 out of 10 teams would say Kevin Durant. I mean, no one's going to disagree with that. But this conversation around like the LeBron AD situation and like what they're going to do about that, like I agree with you. The worst thing you can do is keep living on a championship you won. What is that now? 3 seasons or 2 seasons now, whatever it is. So like you're living in the past, and I think unfortunately for the Lakers, like you don't have financial flexibility right now, and it seems like for ages you've been living on these 2 first-round picks that you have, and what are you going to do with the picks? And are the Jazz going to make a bogey deal? And are you going to make a Kyrie deal? And they just have been bouncing around different situations, and I think when you have all these different situations going on as a front office, it's easy to get distracted. You're looking all across the league and all across the land. Where can I move this and do that? And where can I do this deal to try to get better? Instead of just looking at the team you have and saying, all right, what actually is the fundamental issue with this team? Because I'm a big believer in that. Like, just find the issue as a GM in the NBA and then figure out what your best option is to address it. Because we know in the NBA and really in all of sports, you don't get just to say, okay, I have this issue and then I can go get whatever player. Obviously, making deals happen is not easy. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this Lakers team should like, let's say something outlandish like they should trade LeBron or they should do something ridiculous like that. Should they extend LeBron again? Absolutely not. I would not. I would move on from that situation. I wouldn't trade LeBron, though. The thing is, Anthony Davis and this injury stuff, feed that guy. Build his trade value, then I'd ship him out. I would. You have to be cold-blooded like that. That's the kind of move the Lakers have to make if they want any kind of chance.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think when if you've watched this show at all and you know that, here on the show we talk a lot of NBA, we talk a lot of Utah Jazz, the Monty Show presented by The Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. I think it's one of those things where you have to understand that trades are very difficult to make. And, I saw some of the comments about, where's Rec One's comment? Did Danny Ainge send Rudy on purpose to destroy the Wolves, knowing what will happen and that those picks will get into turn into a chance of getting Wembanyama in 2023? No, he did not. A. B. Rudy's not the problem in Minnesota. I'm telling you, I think it's DAngelo. I think it's dysfunction. I think Karl Anthony Towns, they're finding out the hard way, cannot guard the power forward position. Mm-hmm. I think he is out of sync offensively. That's not Rudy Gobert's fault, and he's not the reason that they're struggling. We spent a lot of time the other night watching the Timberwolves trying to really figure out, hey, what's going on with this team? D'Angelo Russell's what's going on with that team. Their bench is what's going on with that team. They need more consistency, and they need system in Minneapolis. After watching a lot of their stuff the other night, I actually don't think Rudy Gobert's what's wrong with them. I think Rudy makes it awkward, but I don't think he's the reason. And the Jazz have no chance at getting Victor Wembanyama. I just think that ship has sailed. Mm-hmm. Scoot Henderson's going to roll through here. I'm really excited to tell you Scoot's going to be on the show when the G League Ignite are here at Maverick Center to take on... Yeah, I'm excited to talk to him, to take on the SLC Stars, the G League affiliate of your Utah Jazz. Scoot's going to come by the studio. We're going to spend some time talking to him. And I still maintain he's the guy you want in that. But no, I don't think that's the issue at all. Mike Maples, good morning to you. This team has been together for 2 months, and you've been in every game. You're 10-5. They will get more cohesive, and that's when they could be even better. Yeah, I mean, they're still learning how to play with each other. And I think, it's interesting. Rudy Gay is an interesting guy in that whole mix.
Yeah.
How does Rudy Gay work on this roster?
I think that's tough. I think
it's very tough.
He's later in his career. I think that, last night he had a possession where he was guarding Joel.
Several, yeah.
And I think that, putting him on Joel is cool in the sense that, Rudy can afford to foul Joel and play real physical basketball because he's not someone that's going to play 40 minutes a night. Like, he doesn't need to spread his fouls out. You can bring him in and basically say, hey, go and get him, get after him, frustrate him, like, be physical, and then you can take him out. And so that, to me, is one role he fills. I think another role he fills that he's struggling with a bit is three-point shooting. There are numerous times where he's wide open in the corner. And frankly, with Rudy Gay, I do expect it to go in. For whatever reason, can't really explain that, but I just expect Rudy Gay to be a guy who, if you get 5 shots a night, you're going to make 3 of those. Like, I guess I just expect that out of him. And that's where I feel like, your Rudy Gays of the world on this team, you got to make your shots if this team is going to win right now. Like, you need, 5 to 10 points out of Rudy Gay to win a ball game.
But shouldn't he be that guy also that you can put on look at Kristaps the other night. Yeah. Porzingis had an easy time against the Jazz because they're not big. And Kelly Olynyk, which again, not to keep putting my thumb in the wound, but this is why you don't trade Bojan Bogdanovic for flipping Kelly Olynyk because Kelly can't defend Joe and he can't defend Kristaps. And those are prototypical big men in this league. Look how well Kristaps shot.
Yeah.
I mean, he has got a good shot. You look at Joe. Who thought that three-pointer he hocked up at the end of the game was going in? Because I did.
Yeah.
I thought it was going in. The guy's a wonderful shooter. It's not like they're driving by you and dunking. Well, I mean, Joe did some of that too.
Keep it real.
My point is, can you defend the low block? And right now, I don't think you can.
No.
And Rudy Gay is part of the reason you can't.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying. Like, this roster, that's what I'm saying. This roster is still an unfinished gem, if you will. It's still in development. You're still, you're figuring out, okay, what dynamics do we want at play on this team? And I think, that whole Timberwolves conversation is something as a Jazz fan you should really be wary of, because
absolutely,
as soon as you sign that $45-50 million a year guy, that changes the dynamic, because their issue, in my opinion, yes, is D'Lo, and from a personnel standpoint, he is a big problem. But the core issue, why they're so dysfunctional, is they don't have leadership. The guys getting paid the money aren't leaders. The Brooklyn Nets are having success because Kevin Durant's making the money and Kevin Durant's putting the ball in the hole.
And he's the alpha now.
And
and I think that's where, to bring this back to the Jazz, that's the next evolution of this roster. You need an alpha on this team.
Yes.
Because absolutely, it's so fun. It's almost refreshing to watch a roster of B players come together and become something special. To see Larry Markkinen be... Right? You need that guy who you can hand the ball to and say, hey, that's my alpha. That's my number one. He's the best player on the team. Oh, I need a bucket. I'm going to that dude, right?
Yeah.
You don't have that right now on this team. So consequently, when you have 4 or 5 possessions, you don't kick that ball, you get blocked by Joe at the rack. That's a problem. And it becomes a bigger problem because you don't have a go-to guy. And I really want that go-to guy to be Jordan Clarkson. I just don't know if he's that dude. I don't, because in this game last night, me and Mrs. Monty are sitting on the couch watching this game, and I keep saying, where's Jordan? Where's JC? Got to get Clarkson the ball. He's your guy. He's your bucket getter. And it just didn't evolve into that. That moment never happened for Jordan. And I think that's one of the things that this team misses, because if we're all being really honest, you have 2 really good 6 men in Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton, but Clarkson is a starter. And I understand that. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do. But what this Utah Jazz team is lacking is that killer, that number one, that guy that you're like, I need a bucket. Let me give it to this guy. And right now in this league, whether that's, LeBron, AD, Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, who didn't play, and now the Cavs have lost, I think, 4 in a row?
Yeah.
I think. You need that guy, and that's the next evolution of this roster. But right now, I still think this is one of the best teams in the NBA. I still think that you are probably the best team in the Western Conference. You can win on any floor. You just got to play Will Hardy basketball.
Well, and I think that Will Hardy basketball has to be led on the floor by Mike Conley. Like, that was kind of what I was waiting for last night. Like, you talk about waiting for JC. I was waiting for like Laurie or JC or someone to kind of get going. And I think on these kind of nights, like last night, like, you need Mike Conley and Will Hardy to be on the same page and say, hey, there's 6 minutes left and we're down 4. We gotta chop this lead down to get up 1.
Notice he went back to that core group of guys late in the game, which I was actually really happy about.
Yeah.
To get Laurie and Mike Conley out there with Beasley, like to get that group, I think he's now learning who that go-to group is when crunch time is there. Mm-hmm. Because I want to see Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton out there together. Mm-hmm. I actually want to see more Conley, Sexton, and Clarkson together with Lauri Markkanen and then whoever that other guy's going to be. I want to see Sexton and Conley on the floor together with either Clarkson or Malik Beasley.
Bloody, clean, methodical, and thorough.
Yeah, listen, I understand that is a small lineup. I totally understand that. But that's what this league is becoming. And, hey, if it's got to be Rudy Gay or if it's got to be – and, frankly, I would have, in my opinion, until he gets in foul trouble, I'd have put Lauri Markkanen on Joe and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
And late in the game, I think that's what we saw. But I also think we're watching Will Hardy learn about his team and learn about his roster.
Yeah, and the small thing, like them being a smaller team, it wasn't like that was necessarily a problem for you outside of Joel last night. Like, yes, Joel ate because this team was small, 100%. But Joel, as we said earlier, it's not the reason you lost this game. Like, Joel's going to get his. Luke is going to get his. Like these guys are going to get their 30 points, and on some nights that's going to be 60, right? Like, that's how the NBA works. But let's not sit here and say... I don't want you guys to be sitting there watching the show thinking, oh, well, this team, they're small, so that's why they're losing some of these games. Absolutely not. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, a lot of the reason that they're a double-digit win team right now is because they're small and they're fast as hell and teams can't keep up.
Well, and the other thing I think that we're learning, because that really feels like the theme of this Jazz roster right now. What are we learning? Mm-hmm. Because you don't really... What's the right way to say this? Winning is critical. Obviously, we all want to win games.
Yeah.
But I feel like you learn more about your guys and your club and your coach where this team is by losing.
Facts.
So when you lose 2 in a row, what did we learn about Walker Kessler this weekend? He's having trouble defending premier bigs in the NBA. There's no doubt that's inarguable now.
Yeah.
Right? But he's also competing at a really high level. He's competing against Joe. Now, did Joe cross him over? Yeah, he did. But look at that sequence, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was Maxey, actually, where Kessler turns it over and throws it right to Maxey, right?
Yeah.
But Maxey goes up, and what's Walker do? He blocks a shot and kicks an outlet.
That was
I love
such
that.
an awesome play, dude.
But I think that is where we're seeing the growth and development of this team.
Yeah.
So Agbaji gets sent to the G League. He should be. Azubuike should be sent to the G League. He should be. Because sitting on the bench at this stage in people's career, like Agbaji needs minutes. He's got to play.
Well, this was the Jared Butler conversation from last year, right? Like,
exactly right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because remember early last week, when all the noise in the comment section was like, oh, Will Hardy's better than Quinn, and Quinn sucked, and Will's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, well, let's see how he uses the G League to develop some of these guys. Like, I agree with you. Agbaji should be in the G League, 100%. Like, you can't have dudes just sitting on the end of the bench rotting away the whole season. Like, you got to develop these guys. So I love the development that's happening now. Like, I feel like in the developmental category, Will Hardy's been way better than Quinn ever wanted to be. It wasn't an emphasis for Quinn. So to me, I like where the team is at. Like I said,
love where the team's at.
Last night wasn't some indictment on where this team is at. Did they face a force in Joel Embiid that was just too much for them? Yes, absolutely. Now, 10 games from now, if I take the Jazz, 10 games from now, they probably win last night, right? Because they're going to learn the lessons and they're going to understand, okay, if we just stay true to what we do, we're better than most teams in the league. We can beat most teams in the league. And then at the deadline, Danny's going to make a move, and he's going to bring in some 6'7" wing player who's got a 7-foot wingspan and can do a lot for you, and that's it.
Yep. Talking Utah Jazz basketball on the Monty Show. What's up? Skinny Dick Nick says, Ayo, Monty Myers.
Whoa.
What?
What kind of name is that?
What do you mean?
What?
Yeah, his name is Skinny Dick Nick. I don't know what. I don't know what to tell you about that. You know. You know.
Okay.
Okay. Mike Maples. Oh, that's a really good point. Rudy is what he is. We strip them of role players. T-Wolves have no bench. Well, I also think you got a really another high level effort out of Vando last night, and I think frankly, I think probably upside on this team right now. I think we're seeing flashes of awesomeness from Walker Kessler. I love that. Jared Vanderbilt is one of those guys you've got to have on your team. He doesn't mind being a dirty dog, but he also is getting you tips at the rim. I'm pleasantly surprised that they're able to throw him the ball in traffic at times.
Yeah.
And he actually catches the ball.
Dude, if he ever becomes a serviceable three-point shooter out of the corner, the guy's gonna be a big-time threat. Like, right now, that shot is very mechanical. It's very, it's not smooth. It's not fluid. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in it. And you can see that in the way he shoots the ball. And so to me, again, he's not one of those guys that's ever going to be like 45% or some ridiculous shooter, but just be 37%. Just be like make a decent amount to where people think it's going in when you're shooting. Because once that happens, then things will open up for him.
And I also think he's another one of those guys that fits in with that. This roster is really interesting in that you have the THTs, the Walker Kesslers, and I would put Vando in that group because I think Vanderbilt's 24.
Yeah, he's
23.
Not. He's certainly not. I don't think he's in his
prime.
prime.
Look up how old he is.
See.
No, not close to his prime. But you look at THT, who's 21. He's got upside.
23.
Vando's 23. You've got Walker Kessler fresh out of college. Like, you look at these guys that are super young, and then you pivot to the Conleys, the Clarksons, the Beasleys. And Beasley's not old by any stretch, but the guys who are experienced NBA players. And I just think that you have such a nice mix
Beasley's
of guys.
25.
Yeah, so you have a nice mix of guys like Markkanen. You have these dudes that can play. And again, the other guy I point to is Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton's still very young, and he's on a really club-friendly contract. So I think it is. You're exactly right, Maples. If they took the depth off that bench, I agree with that. Jazzketball. Okay. This is exactly what I've been saying on our podcast. Okay, well, we appreciate you listening to our podcast.
Yeah.
Rec One says, my point isn't that Rudy isn't playing bad, but that Ainge kind of knew what will happen, that bad fit, and that they won't have any more assets to correct the mistakes. I think it's interesting. I think they do have assets to move in Minnesota. And I think they will move assets in Minnesota. I do. You can't sit when you have $100 million in those two players. You can't sit and hope. You have to, in my opinion, it starts with Russell, but there's numerous guys on that roster that you can trade.
Yeah, and I think what he's saying there, like, I 100% agree with you. I think what he's trying to say is that right now, today on this T-Wolves team, they don't have assets to fix the problem right now on the floor. Like, yeah, they have assets they could trade, and like they can do things, and they're gonna see what you just said, right? You just said it, like, they have to do that because of all the salary they have on the books, so they will. But like, I think his point is that, hey, like, Danny made this move partially because he knew that Rudy wasn't going to be some ridiculous force on that particular roster, but he also knew that Tim Connolly really liked Rudy Gobert, and so he saw an opportunity. And look, I don't think you're 100% wrong, but I'm definitely not going to agree with the fact that Danny Ainge is operating from a standpoint of making deals based on how they affect other teams. He's making deals based on what he wants to get done on his roster, and hey, if it screws the Lakers, great. If it screws the Suns, great. Right? Like that's like a secondary thing.
Yeah, and I think you look at the $31 million that DAngelo's making, that's the guy you got to trade. It's an expiring contract. He has value around the league. I would trade him. I'm not a guy that's married to Jaden Daniels. I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think if I look at McDaniels' number, he's making $2.1 million. Yeah. That's a young player that you can trade Jaden McDaniels. I look at McLaughlin. I look at a guy like a Bryn Forbes who's making 1.8 and shoots the lights out.
Yeah, he can contribute.
Those are guys that I would be moving. And I think if you can get that $31 million DAngelo contract that's expiring off your books, I think you have to do that because I think you have to find a way. But having said all of that, I still maintain that they're not a top 5 team in the Western Conference.
No.
I don't. I think Minnesota is incredibly dysfunctional. Rec One, deal for the just a theory though, because the trade itself, even if the Wolves season was good, is still a great deal for the Jazz. Absolutely,
100%.
Tanner Plummer, good morning, friend. Good to see you. Wait, Mrs. Monty watches basketball, Tanner says?
Hey,
not
guys.
really. She was booking. It was funny. My wife is not, if you give her tickets to an NBA game, she'll be there. She loves watching it in person. She does not like watching basketball on TV at all. At all. She was actually booking some travel last night. We were sitting there trying to decide where, because like now I'm ready to go snowboard. So now we're going to go to a couple of places. We're looking at like Canada. Like there's a resort called Baldy in Canada that is amazing. We're thinking about going there. Like trying to get to Switzerland right now is just about impossible. But my point is that there's a bunch of places we want to go and snowboard. So she's looking at travel and I'm watching the game and pulling my hair out at times. It's interesting. Tanner also says, even when they lose, this team is a lot of fun to watch. Oh, it is. There's no doubt about that.
100%.
No doubt about that. Jazz Kitball says they also shot 29% from three and chucked up 37 of them.
Yeah, but I don't think that's enough. Like it's not like, again, the number's 40. Like we've been on the 40 train for a while. Like certainly last year's team, like the prior setup, but this team needs, with where they are right now, like this team needs 33, 34% on 43s. That's their magic formula, because once they do that, that opens up the driving lanes for them.
Yeah.
And it's this vicious cycle that they get teams into where they're shooting well, but if you go and you step out and try to run them off the line, they're either going to get to the rack and get open looks, high percentage in the paint looks, or you're going to foul them.
Our guy Skinny Dick Nick may have something out for you, man. He's like, Jacobius.
Okay.
Let's get the Kelly Olynyk hairstyle rolling, my guy. Grow it out. Let's go.
Can't do it. I actually have an image to keep. I actually have to look professional on some level, so I don't get to wear headbands and stuff.
Well, I think it depends on which hairstyle. What about that right there? What about the What about the Lori Marketing?
Yeah, what do you think of that?
One of our listeners sent us all the jazz and females because NFL memes did this, so now everybody's doing it. What about the THT look? Do you think you could go that way? What about the Mike Conley look?
Bro, Mike, my guy. Enough said. I don't even need to. No comment.
And there's the Kelly Olynyk look.
Ooh.
You're not down, huh?
Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna pass on that one.
What about the Colin Sexton look?
I mean, that hair is pretty sick.
What about the Jordan Clarkson
JC,
look,
bro?
The Jordan. I don't think that's terrible.
Dude, that's brutal.
That's not terrible.
That's brutal.
That's
bro.
not terrible. You think that's terrible?
Yeah, that's not good, man.
I don't think that's terrible. We'll see. Let's see. Crypto Dolphins Super Bowl. Yeah, I wouldn't be anything crypto right now. I'm sick of players having out-of-body experiences against us. You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong.
That's funny, dude.